Alright, what's up, Dragon Brood? We do have another 5-minute Eldraine standard deck tech. This time we're going to be talking about, well, Simic lands. And we don't have a ton of new cards in here, but the ones we're playing actually are pretty fun. So we're going to start with Wrenn and Realmbreaker. Now, my list only has one in here currently, but I think we could get by with two, because it does turn a creature into a land, and we do have some stuff that can work with that. But this also can put stuff in our graveyard, which is also important. We're also going to be playing the new card that everybody wants to see played in some way, Blossoming Tortoise. And we do have ways to get lands into our graveyard, so that helps with the Tortoise. We also have other things that trigger from lands going to a graveyard, and this gives all of our creatures, or creature lands, +1/+1. Now, that does work with Wrenn and Realmbreaker, again, making your 3/3 into a 4/4, which is super nice, but we have a couple other things we're going to be able to use this with as well. We're going to play Deeproor Wayfinder. I'm becoming more and more a fan of this card, but it's a 2-mana 2/3. It can put stuff into our graveyard if we need it to, or it can just help us find lands to put into play and ramp up. I like all of that, and a 3 toughness on turn 2 is actually relevant in current standard. We are going to play Llanowar Loamspeaker. I don't know if we need a full set of these, honestly. We could possibly cut one and make room for something else. Maybe that's where that other Wrenn and Realmbreaker comes from. Because we don't need a ton of mana. This is just kind of nice and helpful. Now, one of the slots I am experimenting with here is we're playing a couple of copies of Nissa Resurgent Animus. This is a 3-mana 3/3, so not the most exciting thing, but as we have other lands come into play, this can trigger again and give us more mana. And we do have some of the lands that can actually fetch for things. We have stuff like the turtle putting stuff into play. So it's possible we could get extra value out of this. I think it's at least worth an experiment here in the early going. Then we have Slogurk, the Overslime. Slogurk does a lot of things. There's a 3/3 with Trample, which is great. Whenever we have a land go to the graveyard from anywhere, then we actually get to put another +1/+1 on it. This counts when we're milling stuff, when we use the lands that fetch. If our creature's a land and it dies, any of that stuff. And then we can remove 3 +1/+1 counters from Slogurk to return it to our hand, so this can protect us from sweepers. And then if he just happens to leave the battlefield for any reason, we can put 3 lands from our graveyard onto the battlefield. So we have a lot of ways to move lands back and forth if we think it's necessary. Now, we do want some things to finish with, so we are going to be playing a big Titan of Industry, because why not? We're going to be able to get lands into play a couple of different ways, so we might as well go for it. We're also going to be playing Titania, Voice of Gaia, a couple copies of this, for good reason. When our lands are going to the graveyard, we get to gain a life, or 2 life, that's actually really good. But additionally, because we can get lands in the graveyard so easily, it shouldn't be a big problem to be able to flip this, and then get a big ridiculous elemental on the backside. Now, looking at other cards we have available, we do need some spells to go with this. So we're going to start with Teachings of Kirin, because again, mills and puts lands into our graveyard, but also makes a blocker, which is super nice. And then we have Seed of Hope. This, we're only going to play a couple copies, so this lets us mill 2 cards, and we can take a permanent from there and put it into our hand, which is good, because we're only really playing like 9 spells. Everything else is lands or creatures, I think. So, it's not true, or planeswalkers, but those are all permanents. But we do gain 2 life from doing this as well, and it is an instant. So really good in several spots. We're going to play Make Disappear, because, well, why not? We should have mana to spend, it shouldn't be an issue. But if it turns out we are able to play a bunch of mana, then it might be better just turning this into a hard counter, or maybe even splitting them up. So we have a couple of Make Disappears and 2 or 3 of some other hard counter, because our mana just may not matter. And then we have 3 Fading Hope. This is kind of a double-edged thing where we might want to bounce one of their things so we can stay aggressive, or slow them down so we can buy time, or just use it on one of our own things that gets targeted just so we can protect it. Otherwise, other than here, we are going to be playing 26 land, but the deck is based around a lot of lands doing a lot of things. I will point out, though, we are going to be playing one of the new lands, and that is Restless Vinestalk. Oop, let me get that. There we go. Oh, nope, there we go. Why is this having such a hard time? All right, there we go. We got it. Restless Vinestalk. My goodness. But the cool part about this is, other than the fact that it comes into play tapped, it does give us blue mana, it does give us green mana, and it gets to attack as a 5/5. The other good thing about this is if we have the turtle out, or the tortoise, I should say, it actually reduces the activation of this, and then can give something else a base power 3/3 as well. So lots of good stuff going on here, and this is actually going to be hard for the opponent to deal with, especially when you're making a big 5/5, or what could be a 6/6 or bigger, trampling thing to come over and beat him about the head and neck. So yeah, there you go. If you want to play lands, you want to play Tortoise, this could be the list for you. We got it in under 5 minutes. If you want other deck ideas to make sure you're ready for Eldraine Standard, check out my other videos that cover the 5 minutes deck techs.